And we are going to go ahead and get started. And so thank you so much for being here, because we went through a lot to get here.
Yes, we did.
And so I thank you for going through what you went through, and I appreciate it. And I'm just glad to have you here. This is April Watson. She is the owner of the Weed Spot in Dallas, Texas, located in Bishop Arts. And so to get started, well, we're going to talk a lot about CBD and Alzheimer's today, but to get started, I just want to ask you to kind of give us some background on you and how you got into the CBD industry.
Well, let's see. I've been in Dallas about a little over 20 years. I started off as a teacher in Dallas ISD. I'm a diagnostician. Left the school system in 2011, and then I started a rehabilitation company where we just overall we make people better. Chemical, alcohol dependency, vocational rehabilitation. So we work a lot with government agencies. I went to school, so I have my doctorate in public health. So I am a big proponent of holistic healing, just overall. And we started using CBD gummies with my son who has autism, maybe about 4.5, 5 years ago. And we had a lot of success with just change in his OCD symptoms and some other things. So I just really became interested in cannabis for purposes other than, recreational use. And I found it quite fascinating, to be honest with you, just the power that's in the medicine.
And so you've been using it with your son for the last 4 years?
Yes.
Okay. And so did you have to go through any training or anything just with regards specifically to CBD?
Back then it was harder to get, so we would have to order from different places just to make sure that we had the products. But now you can easily walk into a store and find products. It may not be what you want to buy, top quality products. We'll talk about that later, but you can find CBD everywhere now.
Okay, so let's start by talking about what is CBD.
So it's a cannabinoid called cannabidiol. There are over 122 cannabinoids in the cannabis plant, and CBD is one of them. So CBD has a lot of medicinal uses, so it's very popular. It's pretty easy to isolate CBD out of the cannabis plant, so it was one of the easier ones that they could harvest from the plant, and so that's why it's the one outside of THC that we know something about at this point. So yeah, that's what it is.
Okay, and then you mentioned THC, so what is THC in relation to CBD in the plant?
So THC is also a cannabinoid that's in the cannabis plant, and like I said, there are over 122. So those are two of the at least 122 that research is still uncovering just information daily about this plant. So it's not exhaustive.
Okay, and then what's the difference between CBD and THC?
I mean, the medicinal benefits are different. I mean, the whole synergy in the cannabis plant, all of them play a role in the overall plant, the medicine of the plant, right? And that's what we're going to focus on today. All of them play a role, and THC plays its role, and CBD plays its role. People really love THC because it has some really, really powerful sedative effects. It's a powerful pain reliever, and people like it for that reason. CBD is anti-inflammatory. it's also a pain reliever, but of course it's not as strong and it's not as numbing as you would get for CBD. It does relax you with continued use. It can alleviate pain in your body, but again, they complement each other. So whenever it's possible, it's always good to have a total spectrum of the plant where you're using the whole plant, and you get the most benefit out of the cannabis plant overall.
Okay. So I've spoken with you a little bit, just kind of gotten a little background on things, but I know there's a difference between broad spectrum, CBD isolate, full spectrum, and that's what you see on the bottles when you buy them. So can you kind of talk a little bit about the difference between, I guess, the levels of CBD?
Mm-hmm. So CBD isolate is the purest form of CBD. So it contains no other cannabinoid. They've isolated the CBD out, and all you get is that one cannabinoid. For people who need the benefit of the medicine, but let's just say, like, for some reason they don't want to take a chance of anything showing up on a drug test. Let's just say, we have a lot of people that are in law enforcement that shop in our store, or people that, work in certain industries where they just cannot take the chance of having a positive test. So an isolate product, there's no possibility of it ever showing up on a drug test. There's nothing that is testable. And it's legal, but that's a little, when we get to the next level, I can kind of talk about that more. But CBD, you can get benefits of the medicine, and again, the total plant is where you get the most benefit from. But you still get lots of benefits from an isolated product, but it's not going to be the best quality. Full synergistic plant spectrum is where you get the best of the best. But it still works though. A broad spectrum, no THC. The THC has been isolated, and you get all the other cannabinoids. So you get a pretty powerful plant extract, but there's no THC for people who don't want to take the chance. Even a slight amount of THC for some people, including myself, is too much. And so when you isolate the THC, you get the benefit of all the other cannabinoids without necessarily putting yourself, in a risk, just in case you have really bad anxiety or something like that, that THC can sometimes exacerbate. The thing about broad spectrum is there's always a chance for a false positive when you have full spectrum cannabinoids. Even though there's no THC there, there is a chance that you could test positive because just the nature of the cannabinoids. Delta 9 THC is what we test for, but there are other THCs that are in the plant. Like we have Delta 8 THC that's becoming really popular. We have THCA, we have THCP, we have lots of other THCs, but the one that's regulated is Delta 9. So those other THCs are still in there, although they're legal and they're not regulated. There's still a possibility that it could show up on a drug test. So anybody that needs to pass a drug test, we tell them to stay away from the broad spectrum as well as the full spectrum. So the full spectrum is all of the cannabinoids. That means that the plant is in a really pure form, and legally we can have 0.3% THC in a product and it still be legal. So if you are a hemp user, just know that if you get a full spectrum product, it could have up to that 0.3% THC in there. So there is a possibility, although it's a small one, that you could still test positive.
Okay, and then you talk about the 0.3%. Is that a Texas rule or?
No. The 2018 Farm Bill Act regulates how much that amount is for it to still be considered a hemp product. So it's a federal mandate, and that's the limit that they set. Which is still pretty potent.
Okay.
You know, 0.3% is
It's a lot.
it's pretty yeah, it's pretty potent. It's not as weak as some people think it is.
Okay. And then before we move on to the benefits for Alzheimer's, the last kind of background thing I wanted to ask about was about sourcing. And so I know I have seen CBD products in the gas station. I've seen people selling them through multi-level marketing. There's stores like yours that specialize in CBD. And so I'm pretty sure what you get from the gas station is probably not the quality of what I would get from your
Don't buy your CBD from a gas station.
store. So can you
Be
talk?
very, very, very careful. You know, and a lot of people will come to me and they're, you know, they'll say, "Oh, I tried CBD and it didn't work for me." And I'm like, "Well, where'd you buy it?" And I say this in most of the interviews that 85% of all hemp in the United States is imported from China. Now, that is concerning because different countries have different rules when it relates to pesticides, chemicals, heavy metals, mycotoxins, or just whatever the gamut is, and you have no idea how it's grown. And the reason why people tend to buy things from China is because we can get them less expensive. But when it comes to ingestible products, we should be very, very, very careful about ingestible products. So we only source from, we prefer small farms, but we only source from companies that I have great relationships with, that I have access to their products, to their farms. And we are very, very careful in anything that we buy or vet. We have extensive testing that our manufacturers will send us to let us know if there's any molds, chemicals, heavy metals in any of their products. We know exactly what's in it. We know how it's grown. So, you know, when people buy from sources like us, where, you know, somebody walks into our store and they say, "Well, where did this come from? Well, what farm did this come from, or who's your farmer?" We could readily tell them. And anywhere that you buy CBD from, they should be able to answer those questions for you. And those are some huge, huge questions, because here's the thing about taking products that are subpar. If you're taking it to make you feel better, a lot of these things can make you sicker. And I'd rather for somebody, even if it's not with us, to go to a reputable business. We don't even buy from wholesalers or distributors, because a lot of times they can't tell me the history of the product, and people could wholeheartedly and honestly believe that, you know, it came from a good place. But if I can't go and put my hands on it, then I can't put it in our store.
All right, that's very helpful information.
Yes, and never buy your CBD from a gas station. It, Sometimes you'll have like people who will put the work in it, but more often than not, unless it's a specialty store, you know, there are a few other companies that are doing it right, but it's very few, far in between.
Okay. There is, and I've had another conversation about CBD with someone else. There's an ingredient that starts with a K that's supposed to be really bad for you. That's related to CBD, and it's
Kratom,
yes, that.
that is not related to CBD. That's a whole different plant.
Okay.
And they source that from Southeast Asia. That plant, we do not sell it in our stores. It makes a lot of money, but it's highly addictive. It does get people high, and it could be just as strong and hard to get off as something like heroin.
That's what I've heard, and that's something over the counter, right?
You can buy it over the counter. It's illegal because it's an actual plant, but people take it for lots of different reasons. But like I said, you know, I've had many opportunities to carry it in our store. And although I know that for some people, especially people who are getting off of meth and some other things, it's a step down. But honestly, you're trading in one addiction for another. So with just me and my background, I wouldn't ever want to provide something that I know that I wouldn't recommend or take myself just to make money. Like it's, you know, we spend so much money on the products that we have in our store, because I could buy cheap and sell high like a lot of other people do, but we don't do that. We have very little markup in our products, because we source very high quality products. So I tell people all the time, you know, especially when people call, I'm like, oh, I have all these Kratoms and money isn't everything. And it's not. In small quantities, maybe it could be helpful, but people have to really be careful. And I recommend just not getting involved with it, but that's just my opinion.
Okay. So then let's move on and talk about Alzheimer's and how
Mhm.
CBD can be helpful for Alzheimer's.
So the research relating to dementia and Alzheimer's is emerging. So people are trying to figure out how beneficial cannabis is in reversing or stopping the disease from progressing. There aren't any conclusive studies. So the only thing I can tell you is what I believe. And I haven't seen anybody who started a really good regimen get worse. So I believe that if you start early and you get on a regimen and you stay on it, you can keep the disease from progressing or progressing as fast as it would naturally. It won't reverse anything. And unfortunately, the brain just doesn't heal itself. It can't fix itself. So once the damage is done, you can't go back and change it. But what you can do is slow the progression down. So the earlier you start recognizing symptoms, what CBD will do is help relieve the inflammation. It will help in the body overall. It'll help with the problem that people have with they're getting too much oxygen to the brain, which can be detrimental to the health of the brain as well. So I always say that the earlier you recognize that something is wrong, or the earlier you get the diagnosis, the better outcome that you'll have in sustaining your current level of functioning longer. And it doesn't mean that if someone is started late or they found out late that it won't have benefits. It's just hard to determine what those benefits will be because every person is different. So for some people, you may see like very quickly a tremendous gain in their abilities. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know.
Somehow your camera turned off. There you are.
I'm not sure what happened. Okay. Um, so you can definitely know that it will help. It's just hard to know how it will help. And each person is so different. So it really would take a person coming in, sitting down for a consult and talking about sharing some pretty personal information. When was the diagnosis, what their current level of functioning, problems that they're experiencing, and then we can make some recommendations now. Although I do have like a public health background, I'm not a medical doctor. So I want to just put that out there. And we can't make any promises that anything is going to change the outcome of whatever. Um, Although there are positive benefits and the correlations point to the fact that these are things that are beneficial. But I just kind of want to put that out there. So, let's just say that one person comes in and was like, well, it didn't change very much for me. And then I also want to say that this isn't a quick fix, right? This isn't something that, you take once or twice and then it just fixes the problem. This is a continuous commitment of day to day, incorporating it into your life and giving it months to settle in and work. Our endocannabinoid system regulates all of our body functions, right? From our brain, all the way to our muscular system and how we even, walk. Our skeletal system, just everything about our bodies. Our brain is connected to our endocannabinoid system, and normally we would eat enough foods where we would have enough cannabinoids in our bodies to help regulate some body functions, so we're not suffering from diseases as much as we are. But unfortunately, with our diets, we just don't eat enough of the foods that have cannabinoids in them naturally, like pepper, and there are a lot of other foods that you can naturally find cannabinoids in. So we do have the cannabis plant where it has a more concentrated level, so we can easily source them and kind of put it back in our bodies where, you know, we need them to function and help it regulate itself. And I will also say, say to someone too, that if you start a CBD regimen and you add CMOS to it, you will see some pretty powerful changes happen within a matter of months. But this is a very, very strict daily commitment, and you'd be really amazed at what you can reverse with those two methods working together.
Okay, so back to benefits and different, I guess, symptoms, for lack of a better word, that CBD might help. So I know appetite, I think, is one of them.
Yeah, so the THC is what helps with the appetite. So if you are taking a full spectrum product that has THC in it, that's the part that's going to give you the wanting to eat more. But again, it would really take, like sitting down, kind of working through all of those different nuances, just to make sure that you get the right one for you. But it will help with appetite. It will help with the brain fog. It will just help with inflammation. And I want you to know that, Dr. Sebi taught us this a long time ago, that inflammation is the source of all diseases of the body. So when you remove inflammation, you remove disease. And the goal is to get rid of inflammation, right? So it doesn't matter if it's the appetite, if it's the memory, if it's the inability to concentrate, if your vision's getting worse. Some people have, they start to develop muscular issues when they have dementia. Like, all of those things are all related to inflammation of the body. So in order to retain and prevent, you always want to think about, like, how do I reduce the inflammation?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's going to stop the progression of the disease.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then also, like, anxiety and insomnia.
Mm-hmm.
Anxiety and insomnia is something else that the
Mm-hmm.
CBD or THC or both, or
Both, a combination of both, but even a CBD isolate can help with reducing anxiety and helping a person sleep. Absolutely.
okay.
Absolutely.
And I mean, I guess all of this is related, just an overarching umbrella of behaviors and having, combative issues and the sort of things that sometimes come.
And a lot of that comes from people not being frustrated with the inability to communicate. See, sometimes you can, especially people with progressive diseases, right? Over time, you can be fully aware, and your body just not cooperating with you. A lot of times we don't know how much to process, because a lot of times just the words aren't there, and you kind of remember some things and you kind of don't. So it's very, very difficult for us, especially as caregivers, to even know how much functioning they really have or what's going on here. And that's one of the scariest things, is that, a person could be fully aware on the inside, right? and we wouldn't know it. We wouldn't know it.
Yeah. And clearly, as in myself, I've been down this road with my grandmother who was nonverbal, towards the end of her life, and just wondering what is going on in your head. So, and they get frustrated for them.
Wait, hold on just a second. I'm sorry. We were doing so good. Okay, hello?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Nope.
I wonder what happened. Just unmute your, yeah. Now, can you hear me now? No?
No, I can just vaguely, but let's just.
And now your sound just went out.
Okay, I got you back now. Okay.
Okay. Yes. Welcome to Technology in 2020 and Zoom.
Yes.
All right, so we don't have long left, Zoom. We're almost finished. Just give us a few
We have had some glitches today.
Okay, give us a few more minutes. But yeah, I think what I can't remember what I was saying, but I think I was just talking to the point of behaviors and frustration and all of that, coming from not being able to communicate, not being able to necessarily use your words. So hopefully and possibly CBD, THC would be able to help those things. So that's just basically what I was saying. Let's see. Just real quick, what are some of the other diseases, I guess, or that this product could be used for? I know epilepsy and seizures, I've heard, is one of them.
That is an exhaustive question. Like they're prior to prohibition or the war on drugs, cannabis was the medicine that was used for centuries.
Okay.
Because it has so many healing properties. And it wasn't until things changed and they politicized cannabis, and and propaganda works on people. And we know that because even today we're still dealing with the stigma. And I ask people all the time is, we support and we don't look down on people who abuse and use prescription drugs and opioids that will kill you. That literally, if you take too much of them or you can become addicted, which is easy to do with a lot of these drugs, they will kill. You can overdose and it could put your life in jeopardy. Cannabis won't do that. You can take too much of it, it'll make you sick, but it won't kill you, and the side effects aren't fatal. It's some uncomfortable ones if you overindulge. You could be vomiting, you could green out, dry mouth. You can have problems, with your bowel system, but it won't kill you. And so I don't know, if this is a good time to talk about it, but I will say that the reason why this war started was, believe it or not, it's cotton, right? Hemp is a more sustainable product. It grows 3 times as fast. It's cleaner. You can grow it without pesticides for the most part. And it's really, really nourishing to the soil. If you've ever worn a hemp t-shirt, it's softer. It will prevent you from sweating as much. It's just the overall better product. But the issue was that countries countries like Mexico and South American countries were producing it. So brown people were making money off of it essentially. And cotton was big business in the United States, still is, especially the southern United States. So the propaganda was always related to economics. It wasn't really related to the medicine. And, America has a long history of racism. That's just real. And they wanted cotton to remain big business for as long as it could. So a lot of the cotton farmers and associations came together and they came out with this movie called Reefer Madness. And it was filmed in the 30s. And it scared the living daylights out of people. And it made people think that cannabis users were the black males were going to rape all of the white women. I mean, you have to watch it. It's pretty, and it worked. So much to the point people look today and they still have a negative viewpoint of cannabis, probably never even seen the movie, and don't even know why they have a negative belief about it. And without people taking the time to educate themselves, these stereotypes will continue. So we try to do our best to let people know that this is a natural plant that grows from the earth, and it has some really, really great healing properties. There is something for everybody, meaning a person like myself who I don't smoke, right? So, but you know what? I do have back pain from time to time, and I can eat a gummy, an isolate gummy, and it doesn't make me feel any kind of way as far as like getting me high or anything, but I'm pretty relaxed and my back pain goes away. Now, you may have someone else who, let's just say, has severe anxiety, or they're going through chemo, and they may need something really powerful in their bodies to alleviate their pain, help them rest. You have other people who, use sativas because they make them brilliant. They help them with, become more creative. There's something for everybody within this plant that you could use based on your tolerances and your preferences, and there's no one size fits all.
And then is it also maybe a matter of figuring out what works for you?
Right, and that's where you have to really, really source your product and your supplier. You really have to know and trust and go to people who put in the work and that can sit and tell you about it as well, or lead you to the right place so you can start self-studying and researching.
That makes sense. So then I'm kind of coming to a close. I have a couple more questions. The next one is about the future of the cannabis industry. And there's a lot of developments. Things are being legalized across the country, not yet in Texas. But where do you see this heading?
Well, I personally think that it's not going to be very long before legalization happens, because in a short amount of time, you're going to start to see plants that are naturally bred. Like they can breed high amounts of THC, they can breed high amounts of other cannabinoids as well. So you're seeing Delta 8 become very, very popular. It's a form of THC that's protected under the Farm Bill. Delta 9 THC is the only form that's regulated as of right now, although there are some DEA regulations coming out in October that may or may not affect the future of Delta 8. The law specifically relates to Delta 8 that is synthetically made. But if your Delta 8 is naturally grown, then it doesn't fall in those categories. But you're gonna find that different plants are bred that can give you the same effects as high dosage THC, and they're gonna virtually have 0% Delta 9 THC. And that's the only form of THC. When people talk about THC, that's the only form that they really know about. They really don't know a lot about the other ones. So when I say 0 THC, I'm speaking of Delta 9. So people are wondering, because we sell Delta 8 in our store, and they're wondering, like, how can you sell this when it's so potent? Because again, there are lots of cannabinoids in the plant, and that form of THC is just one of them. So now we're looking at a plant that can, if you want to use it recreationally, you can. I mean, it will give you that feeling that's just as strong, and it's a legal format. So now, you just walk into the store, you can legally obtain it, you can legally own it, have it, and it's pretty powerful. So the game is changing, I would say, and it's going to get to the point where you're not going to really need THC one way or the other to get the desired effect. So at that point, why even why even regulate it as much when you know what I'm saying? People are going to find other ways. And then too, you know, the right after the economy tanked in the 30s, we had the Great Depression. That's when prohibition ended, because it was great for the economy. It was great for the economy. So I believe that when this is all over, we're going to need a boost. And this is one of the ways where we can bring jobs, and we can bring healing to a nation, with the simple plant. So I believe personally that, and then too, it's really, really taxing on our law enforcement system, because if you look at hemp and you look at marijuana, they look exactly the same. There, as of right now, is no test to differentiate between the two. So if it has the legal amount of THC or it has 20 milligrams of THC in the bud, there's no way law enforcement can determine which is which. And that's very, very hard on a system. So when you have some agencies that just want to enforce it, and they end up getting sued because now you're taking somebody to jail for a legal product, and the law says that you have to know it's marijuana if you're going to arrest somebody. And of course, if you don't have a test to tell, then there's no way you can know. And so you're taking innocent people to jail. Now you're getting sued. So now these agencies are paying all this money back to innocent people that they've arrested, and that's taxing on already stressed systems. So now it's like we don't even want to touch cannabis at this point. We don't touch marijuana. And you'll find like large cities are saying, oh, we won't prosecute for because you don't know what hemp and what's marijuana at this point. So it's just setting up a stage that it could be legalized very soon.
Okay. I also wanted to ask you about your store. So can you tell us a little bit about your store, the address, how to get in touch with you, what you sell?
We sell everything. Okay. So if there's anything that you want, we probably have it. We're like the luxury convenience store for hemp. We sell coffees, we sell teas. So we have isolate coffees, we have full spectrum coffees and teas. So it's kind of whatever you're in the mood for. We have a flower bar where we have over 47 different flowers right now. We sell a myriad of gummies, tinctures, drops, pet products. You name it, we pretty much have it. We are open every day from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. And we are located in the Bishop Arts District. Our address is 502 North Madison Avenue, Dallas, Texas, 75208.
And what's your website?
It's weedspot.us.
Okay. I just want to tell really quickly how I met April. I, of course, have a lot of questions about CBD, and then people had asked me a lot of questions about CBD. And so I saw the store on Facebook and wanted to stop by. I happened to be out and I stopped by, and her son actually works in the store. And so I talked to him and told him the information I was trying to get about Alzheimer's and CBD for my mom and what she's going through. And he ended up calling April. And April had a 20-minute conversation on the phone with me, just kind of giving me like a little bit of what she's given us today, and really like a CBD 101. She told me what I need to buy for my mom, and what she thought might be helpful for what she's going through. So April is clearly a wealth of information, and she is happy to speak, with caregivers, and just kind of, if you stop by the store,
call me.
Yeah, stop by the store, or reach out to her, or reach out to me, and I can put you in touch with her, and just see if maybe CBD is something that might be helpful for your loved one.
That's right.
I try to be holistic and, use natural things and remedies in dealing with this disease. I've been dealing with it for about 7 or 8 years. And I'm just now really learning about CBD. So I'm going to try some products with my mom and try a regimen and try to be strict with this regimen and see what happens in a couple of months. So Is there anything else?
And I was gonna say, and here's the thing. Everything is not sometimes like, you know, you try something and it immediately works. It's okay if we have to fine tune things and try things again. But the thing is that you can always ask questions, and I'm here for the long haul, because our culture is so disenfranchised when it came to cannabis, and you have mass incarcerations of Black and brown people for the use of this product, that now that we are even able to go this far, we don't want to touch it. We don't want anything to do with it. And so you have other people who are embracing it, and you know, they are coming to the store, and I just want us to not be left behind in this wave as well. So whatever I can do to help you know that it's okay, and that it's not a bad thing, it's nothing to be ashamed of. And people will come to the store, well, I've never done anything like this before. And my first question is like, what? This is legal. You're not doing anything wrong. Like, don't feel bad about this. This is completely okay. Like, you know, this is completely natural. And I don't want people to be embarrassed or ashamed about doing something that, one, is good for them, two, won't harm them or put their lives in jeopardy. You know what I mean? We just have to find out what you need it for, and then let's work through that. But stop being embarrassed or ashamed. And if it's not your thing, don't look down upon somebody else for using something that's natural. You know, we have to stop doing that, because you know, people are on these drugs, Xanax, and you know, they're taking all these prescription medicines that are killing them. And we have other things that are available that can be just as powerful, that are natural, and will do none of that. And people should not be ashamed to use them based on what they think other people will think about them.
Absolutely. My grandmother was in a skilled nursing facility for a short period, and they put her on Haldol, which is a psych med. And she came home and she was like a zombie. I mean, she was literally not functioning at all. And as soon as I took her off of that, she kind of came back to herself. She was talking, she was walking. And so that just let me know that those meds are not good. I mean, again, we are not medical professionals, and this is for information purposes only. Please consult your doctor. So we're not telling you drop all your meds, but personally, I found with my experience with those meds that they are not good for you. And then to that point, if this is natural, I would prefer to try something natural than to do those really strong, sometimes addictive.
Natural, organically grown, and safe.
Right, exactly.
And safe.
Exactly.
It's not laced with anything. It has nothing to do with the streets and whatever. These come from reputable farms that, like I said, we can actually go and put our hands on products and see how they're grown and being loved and taken care of. So that's the biggest thing that I want to say is, you know, we're here. We try to make sure that every person that walks through the door gets excellent customer service, because that's just who I am to the core. Sometimes we're a little busy and it may take us a minute to get to you. And I would just say be patient with us, because we want every person to have their questions answered. And I don't want to rush anybody with their products. And that's hard to do sometimes with 2 or 3 clerks in the store. And, you know, you may have 10 customers waiting. But if you could just be patient with us and kind of, you know, once customers get acclimated to coming in buying products, then, you know, you may see them come in, they know what they need. But if they don't, I I just like to answer questions and not just throw products at people. So I just ask for y'all's patience in that part, because we want to make sure that we sell you the right products that actually make a difference in your life.
Absolutely, 100%. That totally makes sense. So it is getting dark outside, and I know that you need to get on with your evening. So I'm going to go ahead and end this for the evening. But thank you so much. I'm so glad that we worked out our issues. And
you said that we needed to just stick it out and figure it out. I'm glad that we did.
I am too, and everything went just how it needed to go. So thank you so much for being with us today, April. I will be in touch with you, and
Same here.
I will talk to you later. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye.